Fitness influencer mocks Hulk Hogan by mimicking him and faces serious backslash on social media. Joey Swole says he is done, after being criticized over sharing a video of himself dressed as Hulk Hogan in the gym. The fitness influencer, known online as CEO of Gym Positivity, was slammed for posting an old clip of himself working out in a fancy dress costume of Hogan, who passed away at the age of 71 last week. On the 24th July, Swole, 42, has since deleted the video in which he dressed in a Halloween costume at Gold's Gym in California. I would be a hypocrite if I didn't hold myself to the same standards. I am human, I am still growing and learning, and I promise to all of you I will do better. Swole added, I have nothing but love and kindness in my heart. I will continue to try and make the world a better place. However, taking to X the next day, he insisted that he is done with the criticism, appearing to announce he was quitting social media. All the good I've done, all the people I've helped, all for nothing, he told his 1.1 million X followers. Swole also has 5.4 million followers on Instagram and 8.1 million on TikTok. I truly hope all the people I've inspired do great things in their life and pay it forward to help others and carry on my message. But no matter how much good you do, people just wait for a reason to hate you and tear you down. You either die a hero, or live long enough to be the villain. Thank you for your support. I am done. Joey Swole added, under the harsh glare of gym lights and the even harsher scrutiny of social media, a man who once stood as a symbol of positivity in the fitness world now finds himself drowning in controversy. Joey Swole, the self-proclaimed CEO of Gym Positivity, is facing a storm so intense it threatens to unravel everything he has built. A single video, posted, deleted, and yet permanently etched into the digital consciousness, has taken on a life of its own. And in the aftermath, Swole's very identity, his message, and his legacy are being questioned. It all started with what seemed, on the surface, like a harmless Halloween throwback. Joey Swole dressed in a flamboyant costume, strutting and curling weights with exaggerated flair, clearly imitating one of the most iconic figures in professional wrestling history, Hulk Hogan. The blonde mustache, the bandana, the classic muscle poses, it was a playful tribute meant to entertain. But the timing of the video's resurfacing proved catastrophic. Just days earlier, the wrestling world had been left devastated by the passing of Hulk Hogan, real name Terry Bollea, at the age of 71. The legend who helped redefine American pop culture in the 1980s and 90s had succumbed to cardiac arrest, and tributes had poured in from across the globe, wrestlers, fans, celebrities, and public figures all taking a moment to remember the man who brought so much charisma and energy into millions of lives. Amid this mourning, Swole's video, whether meant as satire or homage, was perceived by many as grossly insensitive. Within hours, outrage erupted online. Clips of Swole's impersonation were reposted across platforms, often without context, amplified by users who saw the timing as nothing short of disrespectful. For someone who had long branded himself as the protector of gym etiquette and a champion for positivity and mental health, the backlash was both ironic and brutal. Words like hypocrite, tone-deaf, and disgusting flooded his mentions. Fans turned critics, demanding accountability. Some questioned whether the video had been posted recently or years ago, but in the age of viral content, context matters little once the wave begins. What once may have been a simple costumed performance quickly mutated into a symbol of perceived mockery at a time of mourning. The situation was further complicated by the fact that Joey Swole had long built a reputation on calling out toxic behavior in gym culture. He had made a name for himself as the voice of decency in the digital fitness space, frequently posting videos defending gymgoers from bullying, shaming influencers who filmed others without consent, and standing up for inclusivity and kindness within fitness communities. To many, he had been a breath of fresh air in a space often poisoned by vanity and elitism. And yet now, that very image was being turned against him. People demanded, how could the man who lectured others on decency and awareness not have been conscious of how a video like that would land in such a sensitive time? In the immediate aftermath, Swole tried to do what so many public figures do in crisis: apologize. The video was deleted. In a heartfelt post, he acknowledged the hurt the clip had caused, writing, I would be a hypocrite if I didn't hold myself to the same standards. I am human, I am still growing and learning, and I promise to all of you I will do better. He added that he had nothing but love and kindness in my heart and reiterated his commitment to spreading positivity. But if Swole had hoped that a sincere apology would defuse the fury, he underestimated the speed and severity of social media judgment. The next day, he returned to the platform with a tone far more defeated. All the good I've done, all the people I've helped, all for nothing, he posted to his 1.1 million followers on X. The sentiment was raw and heartbreaking. His voice cracked through text, exhausted, as if years of effort had come undone in a matter of hours. I truly hope all the people I've inspired do great things in their life and pay it forward to help others and carry on my message, he continued. And then, the line that sent his followers into a frenzy, but no matter how much good you do, people just wait for a reason to hate you and tear you down. You either die a hero, or live long enough to be the villain. Thank you for your support. I am done. With those words, Joey Swole appeared to be quitting social media, and possibly abandoning the movement he had championed for so long. For his fans, this wasn't just a dramatic sign-off, it felt like a funeral for a brand, a message, and a man who had once made them believe that gyms could be a space of support instead of shame. But for critics, it sparked fresh debates. Was Swole a victim of cancel culture, undone by a mob unwilling to allow a man to grow from a mistake? Or was he an example of the very behavior he'd once condemned, failing to exercise the awareness and compassion he so often preached? The fallout was swift. Fitness influencers, YouTubers, and social media commentators began posting their own takes. Some defended Swole, calling the backlash disproportionate and arguing that intention matters. He wasn't mocking Hogan, said one Instagram commentator. It was a throwback clip, clearly not malicious. Others disagreed. Timing is everything, another tweeted. If he truly cared about respect, he wouldn't have posted that during a week of mourning. It's about empathy, not ego. Meanwhile, the wrestling community remained largely silent, perhaps out of respect for Hogan's family, or perhaps to avoid fanning flames. But fans of Hulk Hogan took to forums and Facebook groups, voicing a collective sense of disappointment. To them, the video wasn't just an unfortunate error. It was a stain on a grieving period. Many pointed to the fact that Hogan, despite his own controversies over the years, had inspired generations of fans to embrace confidence, strength, and personal power. Seeing that image, that legacy, reduced to a caricature in a viral gym video stung deeply. There was a broader conversation bubbling underneath the surface. When does tribute become mockery? Can impersonation ever be harmless when tied to real grief? And are public figures ever allowed to make mistakes without being crucified? Joey Swole had once seemed immune to this kind of collapse. He had become a rare breed in the influencer world, someone who didn't just flex, but fought for mental health awareness, bullied gym newcomers, and spoke openly about vulnerability and accountability. His entire platform was rooted in empathy, the very quality he was now being accused of lacking. That duality made the backlash more personal, more emotional. It wasn't just about the video. It was about betrayal. About inconsistency. About a perceived fall from grace. And that is where the pain seemed to hit Swole hardest. The weight of his words, all for nothing, carried more than frustration. They carried heartbreak. This wasn't a man brushing off criticism or deflecting blame. This was someone who genuinely felt devastated, blindsided by a public that had once lifted him up and now seemed eager to watch him fall. As the hours turned into days, debates continued to rage. Was Joey Swole's apology enough? Should he have anticipated the response better? Could this have been handled differently? The reality is, in today's digital landscape, moments like these are no longer isolated incidents. They become flashpoints, snapshots in time that ignite far larger discussions about empathy, performance, celebrity, and humanity. What made this scandal so unique was not that a fitness influencer posted a controversial video. That happens daily. What made it gut-wrenching was who it was, what he represented, and how quickly everything he stood for seemed to unravel. Joey Swole didn't just lose followers, he lost faith. In the system, in his audience, maybe even in himself. For someone who had preached kindness and self-betterment, being branded as insensitive, especially in relation to a death, was a wound not easily repaired, and yet, as always, social media remains fickle. While some screamed for permanent cancellation, others posted supportive messages, begging him not to quit. "You've helped so many of us," one fan wrote. "This doesn't erase that." Another echoed, "We all make mistakes. What matters is what you do next." But for Joey, the decision seemed made. "I am done," he wrote, not once, but repeatedly, across several platforms. He removed several of his most viewed videos. He went silent on TikTok and scaled back his Instagram stories. The man who once called out toxic influencers had now become a cautionary tale himself. What happens when the leader of a movement becomes its own controversy? Can Joey Swole recover from this? Or has the digital age claimed another personality, not for malice, but for a moment of misjudgment? These are questions that remain unanswered. But for now, one thing is clear. The bar we set for our role models is impossibly high, and when they stumble, even slightly, the fall can be catastrophic. Joey Swole, once a beacon of gym etiquette and social courage, now faces a crossroads. Whether he chooses to return or fade into silence, his story serves as a haunting reminder. In the court of public opinion, intention may not always matter, and sometimes, all the good you've done isn't enough to protect you from one tragic misstep. As the dust began to settle, a strange quiet followed Joey Swole's declaration. The kind of quiet that feels heavy, not peaceful, but eerie, uncertain. His accounts remained up, but inactive. His inboxes, once filled with thank you messages and transformation stories, now bristled with a new tone, sadness, confusion, and desperate pleas for clarity. Fans who once found strength in his words now scrolled in disbelief, trying to reconcile the man they admired with the tone of finality he had posted. And for Swole himself, the silence wasn't about strategy. It wasn't part of a calculated PR move. It was real. Raw. A reaction born not from image preservation, but emotional overload. The gym had always been his sanctuary, the one place where noise faded and clarity emerged between each repetition. Now, even there, peace seemed out of reach. Behind closed doors in California, Joey wasn't preparing a comeback. He wasn't brainstorming a redemption arc or collaborating with PR experts. Instead, he was shutting the blinds, turning off his phone, and staring into the mirror, not flexing, but searching. How had everything turned so quickly? Just a week earlier, he had been highlighting gym transformations, reposting motivational clips, calling out influencers who filmed others for cheap laughs. His days were filled with purpose. His mission was to make gyms feel safer, more welcoming, less intimidating for newcomers and veterans alike. He wasn't just lifting weights. He was lifting spirits. But now? He couldn't even bring himself to open the gym door. The same space that had once empowered him now echoed with judgment. It wasn't just about the world outside, it was about the world inside his own mind. The self-doubt. The guilt. The shame. He remembered the costume. He remembered the moment vividly, not the reposting, but the original creation of that video. Halloween at Gold's Gym in Venice. The costume hadn't been malicious. If anything, it was born out of admiration. Joey had idolized Hulk Hogan as a child, the red and yellow shirts, the flexing, the energy, the over-the-top charisma. He had grown up mimicking Hogan in front of the TV with his cousins, pretending to body slam villains on the living room carpet. That Halloween, surrounded by friends and fans, he thought it would be fun to recreate those memories. No script. No malice. Just nostalgia. But nostalgia, he realized too late, can be a dangerous currency when mishandled in moments of grief. Because to the millions mourning Hogan, the timing made all the difference. It wasn't just a video. It was a slap during a eulogy. Still, context matters. And for many who took the time to look deeper, it was clear that the video wasn't posted with malice. But the damage had already been done. Swole's defenders tried to explain, but every defense only deepened the divide. In a world driven by virality, the truth often travels slower than outrage. Influencer watchdog pages were quick to pounce, labeling Joey as out of touch, a performative advocate, and another ego hiding behind gym equipment. These weren't just casual critics. These were pages followed by millions, and their words carried weight. Joey saw his image, not the one in the mirror, but the one he had so carefully curated over the years, being torn apart post by post, stitch by stitch. And yet, even amid the backlash, there were glimmers of hope. A quiet undercurrent of support began to rise, not loud, not trending, but sincere. Fitness trainers, mental health advocates, and fans from across the globe began sharing stories of how Swole had helped them. A woman posted a tearful video explaining how Joey's posts gave her the courage to walk into a gym after years of body shaming. A young man recovering from an eating disorder wrote that Swole's advocacy had reminded him that fitness wasn't about vanity, but healing. These weren't damage control campaigns. They were unprompted, heartfelt tributes from people who had been genuinely touched by his message. But Joey wasn't reading them, not yet. He was still hiding from the noise, unsure whether he even deserved redemption. By day 4 of his silence, speculation began to mount. Was he okay? Had he left social media for good? Would he speak again? Some believed he had faked the outrage for attention. Others said he was spiraling and needed help. A handful claimed to have spotted him at a local gym, hood up, earbuds in, head down, no camera crew, no staged content, just a man lifting alone. And in a way, that scene, a solitary figure in a sea of machines, captured the duality of Joey Swole better than any viral clip. Because for all his digital presence, he had always been someone deeply human behind the screen. A man who found power in routine. A man who turned pain into purpose. Still, redemption doesn't come easy, especially in an era where mistakes aren't just acknowledged, they're weaponized. Joey knew that if he ever came back, it couldn't be with a glossy statement or a flashy return video. It had to be honest. Unfiltered. Painfully real. And it would need to start not with defense, but with vulnerability. So, after a week in the shadows, he sat down to write. No scripts. No ghostwriters. Just him, a notepad, and the sound of his own breath. He began with the words he had been afraid to say aloud: I messed up. The letter wasn't meant to go viral. It wasn't posted to Instagram or X. It was sent privately, to his closest friends, mentors, and a few fans who had reached out in support. In it, he talked about growing up idolizing Hogan. He explained the origin of the costume video, the timing mistake, the horror he felt when he realized the context. He didn't excuse the post. He didn't hide behind intent. He owned the hurt, acknowledged the damage, and vowed to listen more deeply moving forward. He ended the note with a line that silenced those who read it: maybe I forgot that sometimes being positive also means knowing when to be quiet. The word spread quietly through group chats, DM threads, and emails. And one by one, those who had doubted him began to soften. Not everyone. Not overnight. But the tide had shifted, if only slightly. Because in a world that rewards performance, Joey had chosen reflection. He didn't post a crying video. He didn't beg for forgiveness. He simply retreated into the work of rebuilding himself, brick by brick, rep by rep. Offline, back in Venice, at the very Gold's Gym where the infamous video had been filmed, Joey showed up one morning without warning. No camera. No costume. Just a hoodie, sweats, and a duffel bag. He nodded to the front desk. No special treatment. No influencer perks. He took the same steps as everyone else. The regulars noticed, of course. Whispers filled the locker room. A few gave nods of respect. One older man approached him by the squat rack, eyes kind but firm. We all slip up, son, he said. What matters is what you do next. And with that, Joey Swole exhaled. He wrapped his hands around the barbell and pulled it from the floor, not just lifting weight, but rising, slowly, back into the world. Begins not with triumph, but with reflection, the kind that comes only after a storm has stripped everything away. For Joey Swole, the days following his quiet return to the gym were anything but ordinary. Each lift felt heavier than the last, not because of the weight itself, but because of the emotional burden stitched into every movement. With every rep, he wasn't just training his body, he was wrestling with regret, humility, and the slow, painful process of rebuilding trust. The gym, once a stage where he inspired millions, had become a sanctuary of reckoning. And in those hushed hours between sunrise and the morning rush, Joey Swole found a rhythm, not of comeback, but of restoration. But social media never sleeps. Even as Swole tried to step back and let time do its healing, the narrative around him continued to evolve. Commentators dissected every detail of his absence. YouTubers released rise and fall videos. TikTok analysts broke down frame-by-frame reactions, comparing his case to other influencers who had been cancelled. The discourse spiraled outward. Touching on free speech, cancel culture, legacy, grief, and the blurred lines between homage and offense. In digital spaces, Swole became more than a man. He became a symbol of how quickly a positive legacy can be overturned by one ill-timed post, and how hard it is to claw back grace in a world that rarely offers second chances. Yet, outside the noise, something quieter and more powerful was beginning to take shape. It started with DMs, private messages from people who had gone silent when the backlash erupted but now felt compelled to speak. "I know you made a mistake," one message read, "but that mistake doesn't erase all the good you've done." Another came from a young woman in recovery from self-harm. "Your gym positivity vied.